Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Players Deck episode 149. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by no one. I am alone this week. Montrell was not able to join me, so I will be doing another solo episode for you guys this week. For those of you who haven't listened before, the Players Take is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you have a question, please send them to us at theplayerstake01@gmail.com or at theplayerstake on Twitter. Since I'm alone this week, we will jump right in to games I've been playing. So, haven't been playing a lot of different stuff this week. Pretty focused for the most part. I've been playing Apex some more. Not much to say there. Same as usual. Enjoying it. Then, some nights get really frustrated with it. Then play it the next night. Enjoy it. It's just kind of that game at this point for me. The other game I mentioned last week that I was playing was a game called Eudor. I was playing this as a kind of, I don't know, almost like respite or like a break from modern gaming because I don't know. I was a little burnt out on kind of modern games at the moment, and this was a nice breath of fresh air. I think I'm done with it now, to be honest. But just to give you guys a brief overview of what the game is, I didn't really explain it very well last week. Looking back on it, it's a turn-based strategy game. It's kind of in the vein of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, which I think I did mention last week, but it's not really like part of the game is like that. Like there's like a town that you start with that you build up, which Heroes of Might and Magic 3 has towns, and it's built up the same way. It has like a building tree and everything, and then there's a kind of like a static town screen that you build your city in, and the buildings show up as you build them. It's not like animated really or anything like that. It's a very old looking game. It's like a mod one person made from or it's a game one person made from like 2008, so it has very old school graphics, but they get the job done. I mean, the game doesn't need amazing graphics or anything like that to be fun. So it has that aspect to it of the static town screen and your castle that you start in. But where this game starts to differ from Heroes of Might and Magic is really the map. The map is just divided into these like districts. Basically, or provinces, I guess is what the game calls them. They're just these spaces, basically, that have points of interest in them, but the space is one space. So it's like you move your character on that space and they occupy the space. There's no spaces within those spaces. It's just like you go to a province, it has a population of a certain race, like human or elf or dwarf or something like that, or like lizard men. There's all sorts of races or whatever. But you have that in the space, but then within the space, there's an exploration percentage of the province. So when you take it, it has a certain percent revealed. I think the first space around your primary province is like 75%, I think, something like that. That's like the default. But as you get further away from your main province, your capital province, I guess is what I would call it, the one that has your castle, those percentages by default get lower. So you can send your heroes to explore the province, and that will up the percentage, which will then reveal new locations within the province that you can visit. So you'll find like, ruined towers, ancient ruins, caves, all sorts of shit like that, so these locations that you find within a province is actually the primary function through which you play the game. The majority of your time is going to be spent basically having your heroes standing on a province, and they will be either exploring just the province in general, or they will go into one of these locations. And the locations will have various things happen. For the most part, I'd say like 90% of the time, those locations you go to result in a fight of some sort. There will be creatures guarding the location, and then you will fight the creatures, and a battle will ensue. And that's where it kind of feels a lot more like Heroes of Might and Magic. It has a hex-based grid that you go on. The two armies are on opposite sides of the map, horizontally on opposite sides of the map, and then they will then they will you'll fight the battle, obviously, and then whoever wins, if you lose, then your character is killed, your hero is killed, and you have to revive them at your main town, which costs money and gems, very expensive. Also takes a few turns before they will show up, and it will allow you to actually revive them, and then your creatures will all be dead. You'll lose them all, so it's pretty devastating to lose a fight, really at any point in the game with one of your heroes, but especially early game. The game is really unforgiving early if you falter at all. But if you win, you get a reward. You get rewards. Usually it's money and gems, and then you will get items of some sort, whether that's scrolls or you will get a blueprint for like a province building, or a building in your capital, or maybe a scroll for a ritual that you can use, which rituals are like spells you can cast in the world map that do certain things to like a province or something like that. And then you also get like items, equipment, which is really the most fun aspect of the game, is getting equipment and equipping your heroes and making them more powerful. So that's like the basic thrust of the game. I found it to be very enjoyable. I personally like these kind of games. I will say, even within the strategy genre, I think this is a niche within a niche. That's how like specific this game is. I really think a lot of people who like games like Civilization and the more 4X side of strategy games, if you like that and then you like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, I think that cross section of players will actually like this game. I think if you like one side or the other of that spectrum, honestly, I'm not sure you will actually enjoy this game, because if you just like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, this game is extremely slow in comparison. Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is a very rather fast paced turn-based strategy game, to be honest. It's not something that takes 35 hours to beat one scenario. It's a quick game, especially when you're experienced. You can beat a huge map that is full to the brim with shit to do. You could probably finish it in 8 hours or less, to be honest, if you're efficient and you know what you're doing. So it's and honestly, that might even be an overestimation, to be honest. The game is quick in comparison. Ador, on the other hand, this game is one that I think can easily stretch into the hundreds of hours if you're on a humongous map and you have the max number of players on it. So that's the aspect. The game is slow by design. Like, it will take you hours to get out of your first ring of your main province. Like you will so there will be 5 or 6 provinces around your primary province, and you will probably spend 3 or 4 hours just exploring those and beating everything you can beat in those, and then you will get to the next ring. And after that, it gets progressively harder and harder. You start fighting creatures more powerful and more powerful. So the game does get harder. The funny part is, later in the game actually gets faster because the combats are easier. Your heroes are more powerful and your army's more powerful, and you're actually able to wipe these kind of guard armies out that are in the provinces and the locations within the provinces. You're able to wipe them out pretty fast, overall. So that's the thing, is that I think if you like Heroes of Might and Magic, this game will be too slow for you. If you like Civilization, on the other hand, you're used to the slowness of a kind of a 4X game and how long those can take, because Civilization games, frankly, can take over 100 hours to finish. I've back in the day when I played Civ 4, like I had a game go like 115 hours or something like that, and it was a really large map, and I really took it to its absolute like limit on that. So I pushed it as far as I could. But the thing that I think a Civ specific player, one who hasn't played Heroes of Might and Magic 3 or doesn't like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, won't like about this game is probably that Heroes of Might and Magic 3 side of the game. That the combats are tactical and you have to do every one of them. You cannot auto battling in this game is not good. Like, the AI is really bad at doing auto battles, as is the case with most of these games. So you will lose units, whereas if you played it out yourself, you wouldn't lose any units. You could get away without casualties. So I think that aspect really would slow the game down so much for a kind of Civ specific kind of player, that I don't know if they would enjoy that. If you like Endless Legend, though, I think that's a good example. Like if you like Endless Legend, then this game might appeal to you. For sure, because Endless Legend has that like tactical combat map that happens when two armies clash with each other. That Civilization like doesn't have. Civilization is just like hex. You just attack the hex the unit is on with your unit, and they do a little animation, and then they do damage to each other based on their strength. Like that's it. That's all it is in Civ. So that's kind of what I'm saying. I don't know if people who love Civ specifically would actually like Eodor, but if you like both styles, I think this game is worth checking out. So it's also on Steam. You can get it on Steam. It's called Eodor Genesis on there. There is an Eodor that is kind of a remake of this game that was like 3D called Eodor Masters of the Broken World. And that game is not nearly as good as like this one from what I've read and my own experience with it. Actually, I played it several years ago and just really disliked it. It for some reason just doesn't capture the essence of Eodor Genesis very well, and that's kind of a big issue it has. Um, so yeah, check that out if you're into strategy games. You like the games I mentioned or know what they are. And the last game I've been playing, so I don't know how deep I want to go into this game, but it was Guardians of the Galaxy. Is the game I have been playing since I kind of dropped Eodor. I got back into this last week, and I really started to push pretty far in it, and I ended up finishing it last night. So I was pushing to finish it before we recorded our Game of the Year discussion because I want to talk about this game in that discussion pretty deeply. So I'm a little reluctant to go into like extreme detail here. I may go really deep there. Might even get more kind of spoilery. And that I don't know. It's kind of hard. I feel like this is more the location to go spoilerish with, but I probably won't. So overall, I think this game is really fun. I really, really liked it. The story is good. It's really good. It's a great Guardian story. It's a great kind of comic book story. I think it's very personal to the characters as well, which I think was it became pretty obvious pretty quickly that was going to be the case. But I think going into the game, I didn't know what to expect. And this game just does a really great job of playing off the characters' emotions. There's a lot of grief in this game. There's a lot of deep seated kind of psychological issues that every character really has, and they all work through those issues within the scope of this game. And the it just has a really powerful kind of end point for me, especially there's a certain point, I'd say like the end of chapter 11, I think, is a really great moment. Specifically like the end of chapter 11, beginning of chapter 12. The kind of group, the Guardians kind of take on a different tone at that point, and it's a really nice shift. It's really well done. It's earned. The game earns it for sure. And I really liked it a lot. The character interactions are awesome. I love all the Guardians interacting with each other, and the way they play off other characters is really great too. They're just a really charming group of characters. Like this IP, honestly, I'm pretty convinced now, having watched 2 Guardians movies and played this game, and then seeing the Guardians and other things like Avengers and stuff. I'm pretty convinced that this IP is just really special. Like these characters are special. Like they're just really charming no matter what form they take, and I really, really enjoy them. And I honestly, as much as I was kind of like a little upset that Eidos made this game, at this point, having finished it and played through the whole thing, I think they are uniquely positioned. They were uniquely and still are uniquely positioned to make this game. And ultimately, if they had given this to Crystal, I don't think Crystal would have made this game. I don't know if they would have made it as well. They might have made a different game that was just as good, but they wouldn't have made this game the way it is now. And so given that, I don't know. I'm like torn because I want a Deus Ex game. I really do. I want another Deus Ex game. But I also, at this point, I kind of want them to make a second Guardians game now. And part of me like hopes that maybe the success of this game is such that Square can create a secondary team within Eidos that makes two games. One makes Guardians 2, and then the other makes maybe a new Deus Ex game, and finishes the mankind, divided / mankind human revolution, uh, or Deus Ex Human Revolution, whatever, that trilogy that they started way back on the PS3 and Xbox 360. I'd love to see the finish of that trilogy out of Eidos. So I don't know. It's a little greedy of me to want both. If they aren't going to do both, if they wouldn't do both, I would still prefer the Deus Ex game. But this is an IP that I think Eidos, though, deserves to get another shot at, because this game is really good. The only thing I want to say negatively about it, well, I guess before I get there, there's a couple other things I want to mention. The voice cast, very good in this game. I particularly want to highlight Drax and Rocket. I think they really embody their characters super well. Drax, for some reason, I don't understand this, but I think I just like the straight man for some reason, like in a comedy situation, because I find Drax to be hilarious, like almost at all times. Like I just find his straight laced, like literal interpretation of everything to be just so fucking funny in the context of Guardians. I because I felt this way in the movies too. I think he's really funny in the movies too. They do play him up more in the movies. I think in this game, like the humor's a little bit more subtle with him at times. But it's still like really funny. There are so many moments in this game, that I legitimately like laughed out loud. And video games are at this point, I'd almost say like video games as an industry are infamous for not being funny. Like being funny in a game is hard to do. Having a game that actually makes people laugh and kind of brings out that laughter, it's really hard to pull that off at this point. I'd say there's only a handful of games that have actually truly genuinely been funny, and this is one of them. This game is really good. So I think this stands up to the movies as well, to be frank. Like I honestly feel like this might, I haven't seen the movies in a while, either one of them, one or two. I remember not liking two as much as one. I remember one being really, really good though. So I don't know if it stands up to one, like pound for pound. I mean, they are different mediums though. So that's the thing though. If you like Guardians and you enjoyed the movies, and you or even a comic book fan of Guardians, this game gives you so much content. Like it's a 15 to 20 hour game probably overall, and that is just like it's just great to be with these characters for so long. So this kind of leads me into some of my negatives though of the game. So that same aspect that I feel like is a positive for a lot of people is a little bit of a negative though too, is that these characters, dude, they just do not stop talking. Like they are constantly talking to each other. They're talking to the enemies. They're talking to the environment. So if you like moments of quiet, of peace and quiet, this is not the game for you. The characters are constantly talking. I can't even fathom. Like I'm gonna bet you most players have not heard every voice line in this game. It's just like I think it's almost impossible, because the way the game is, like this is another negative for me, that it's just, these are minor things. They're not huge problems, but the like you'll be going through an area, say in the middle of a chapter, like you'll be on a ship or something, right? And you'll be going from you'll let's say you just like went through like a crack in the wall, and you like shimmied through it or whatever, and that will trigger like a little scene or something that'll happen where the characters will talk to each other, and then you'll get control of the character back, and you'll be running around the environment after that, and you'll be going into a few different rooms and things like that, doing like a puzzle or something, or maybe you'll fight a couple battles, and the characters will be talking about, kind of in the context of the space you're in. They'll be talking, either about the space or about some events that just happened, a few minutes ago or something like that. And they'll keep doing this. Like they don't, like they'll say, there'll be like a little conversation that's like, say like 6 or 7 lines long, and it'll be like Star-Lord talking, and then Rocket will talk, and Gamora will say some stuff too. And it's just like the 3 of them for the most part. The other 2 characters are silent. They'll say their lines, and they'll talk, and this is just while you're running around, by the way. There's nothing like triggering this for the most part. and then they'll finish, and then like I'd say like 5 or 10 seconds will kind of pass with some silence, and then a new conversation like that'll start happening where it's like Star-Lord, Drax, and Rocket now are talking, and the same thing will keep happening and happening and happening, and this will last throughout like entire areas. And the problem with this is it's not the amount that's like grading, because the characters are fun, the banter's fun, it's well written and everything like that. That's not the issue. The real reason this is a problem is that there will be moments, like I was saying, when you will hit a point in the environment that will trigger a new cutscene, and suddenly something will happen and it will cut off like the second you go into the space that triggers the cutscene. And this is a lot of the times not obvious. You will trigger the cutscene and then it will cut off whatever conversation was happening immediately. It won't even necessarily be a cutscene. You'll still be in control of your character, but you'll have like passed an invisible line. That this happened to me in chapter 6 actually, where you're like trying to they tell you to like go to a certain, they actually don't tell you to go to a certain spot, they just are like give you a vague objective, like find this character, and you'll be running around, you're kind of running around like a port, like a spaceport, and there's a trigger that happens right next to a place of interest, and the trigger, it's not obvious that the trigger's coming. So what happened to me was the place of interest was a bar, and there were a bunch of scenes in the bar that only happened before you walked over the invisible line. And I'm the kind of person, I saw that place of interest and I kind of thought that was where I had to go. So I avoided it and like went forward, and I triggered a fucking cutscene. And then like everybody left, and I was like like Star-Lord was by himself, and all the scenes that would have triggered in that bar didn't trigger. Like they wouldn't trigger because everybody wasn't with me anymore. So it was frustrating in that regard, because it's just like cuts you out of content, and there's no way to go back really unless you restart the chapter. I think I don't know if you can like go, I actually didn't even check if you can go back to the last checkpoint. Maybe you can, and that fixes it, but even so, it's like I didn't even think that would, like, that's not a thing in most games, so I didn't even think it would be possible, so I would guess it probably isn't. But even if it is, it's like it's just kind of annoying. Like, I want to hear the dialogue. I want to hear the banter's funny. It's fun. It's well written, So I just like got annoyed when that would happen, because it happened to me throughout the entirety of this game. Every chapter I had a moment like that where the characters would be talking, I'd be listening to them, and then I'd jump on a platform, and then some conversation that's an actual staged cutscene, like a moment that is like programmed in that spot to happens, and cuts off the conversation they were having. And unlike God of War from 2018, they don't resume the conversation they were having beforehand. It just gets cut off, and they never talk again about that thing. And the other problem with this is that there will be cutscenes that happen in a specific area, or not cutscenes, but conversations that happen in a specific area that don't happen after you pass a certain point. So you will like miss out on a ton of potential dialogue. It's for completionists who are like OCD and want to hear everything in the game, which I'm kind of like that. It's like not a good experience in that way. It's actually super annoying. I appreciate a lot more the way Uncharted and games like that handle this stuff, because my memory of them is much better than this. This didn't go super well for me in that regard. It's not a game breaker. It didn't ruin the game or anything like that, but it is a negative point that I needed to mention. The one other negative I want to mention, and then I'll move on here, is the combat. So the game shines in its story and its character interactions, and the environments and everything like that. But where the game falters, and this is going to be the biggest negative for most people, I would imagine, is the actual combat. The gameplay is not that great. It is pretty much just, I just say it's average. Like, that's really what I'd put it at. It's okay. Like, I mean, controlling Star-Lord, like, he controls fine, but his gameplay is not that fun. You don't get to control the other Guardians directly, which is, I think, a huge missed opportunity in this game. You only get to issue commands to them, and they will fight with you, but you can tell them to use certain abilities, in the middle of combat, and they'll do it for you. And there is definitely some strategy to that, but It's not that complicated that it's super fun, and the payoff's not really that high. Most of the time it's kind of just like, there's a bullet sponge enemy that you need to kill, and you just dogpile them with like 4 abilities in a row, kind of thing. So overall, I didn't find the combat to be super great. That is the most obvious area for improvement that this game has, to be honest. So I hope if they do a sequel that they really focus on that area, as a place to improve. So overall, though, great game. Highly recommend it. If you like that cinematic style, that like Uncharted, Last of Us style, or that Sony's really popularized, and Naughty Dog's really popularized over the last decade and a half, this game will definitely be up your alley. I think it's been a huge surprise for people. I think, myself included, I was not super hyped about it. I was also not expecting it to be this good, even though I appreciate Eidos as a studio. I felt like, Square was going to fuck them up the way they fucked up Crystal with the Avengers, and it didn't happen. Eidos managed to make a great game, despite their publisher. So yeah, check that out if you're into that. And all right, let's move on, guys. We're gonna move into the news here. So a couple follow-ups before we get into like the news proper. I want to talk about, we talked about NFTs a couple weeks ago, and how Ubisoft had announced that they were going to move forward with NFTs in their games. And this was met with a lot of criticism, and I kind of played the devil's advocate and came to Ubisoft's defense a little bit with this. And the follow-up here is, well, there's two things: Ubisoft and then Stalker 2. The developer behind that game announced that they were going to put NFTs in their game, and then the next day, the outcry was so heavily negative that the next day they decided against it and said they weren't going to move forward with NFTs in their game, Stalker 2. So that happened, and then Ubisoft launched their NFT program, Quartz, in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and it was a massive failure. All reports indicate that it's made almost no money at all for Ubisoft, like pathetic amounts of money, and it has been continuously met with severe negative outcry from fans. So first thing I want to say about this is, I want to eat some crow a little bit for, first of all, that I kind of went to bat for Ubisoft a couple weeks ago, and they really burned me here. And I should have known this. That video, thinking about it now, the trailer thing that they released, whatever you want to call it. I think if you looking back on that, it is kind of littered with red flags, that they weren't going to do this properly, and they didn't. To Ubisoft's discredit, I guess. They did not do a very good job with this launch, and their idea here is really poor. They are really making a monetization scheme with this that is just like, I can't think of a positive about it, because the NFTs were tied to the first ones they released. Like, you needed to have played Breakpoint for like fucking like 600 hours or something to even be eligible to purchase it. And then the digital scarcity that Montrell was talking about, came to fruition here. They were releasing NFTs that only had like 250 copies available or something like that. And that was just like, that was such a like, oh my God, why did I even try to defend Ubisoft? Like, they're the fucking worst, dude. So I'm eating that. I eat that crow. Okay. Like, I was wrong there. However, I do want to reiterate my point here about NFTs, is that they are not inherently negative for the games industry. If a developer can make them in the right ways, I think they can benefit players, because what people by like shouting down NFTs and saying they're just bad, like straight across the board, you are basically tacitly saying that the microtransaction, system as it exists today is what you want. And to be honest, that's awful for players. Like, the current microtransaction systems we have in the video game industry do not benefit the players in any way. They're a joke. And this is somebody who partakes in them. Like, I'm talking as somebody who's bought microtransactions. I've bought skin packs. I've bought loot boxes. I've done all this shit, And there is there is nothing beneficial about that system, because when you buy a skin in fucking Fortnite or Apex Legends or whatever the fucking game we're talking about, or you buy a character in a gacha game, they have no value. None. When you buy them, their value is instantly zero. You cannot resell them in any way. You cannot make any money off of them. You cannot even refund them for some kind of cost or anything like that, like in-game currency. You can't do that either. They have no value. Once you have it, you have it. Most games do not let you recycle. Like a lot of games let you recycle skins to get their fucking bullshit crafting materials or whatever, to make you feel like you're, at least getting something out of getting like duplicates and shit like that. But it's all a bunch of bullshit. It's just psychological crap, Like at the end of the day, it's a fucking scam. We're all getting scammed. Like, we're buying digital goods that will eventually expire. They have no guarantee that they will be there in a year, 2 years, 3 years. They could literally, this happens. Like, this is happening with Jump Force, right? They delete the game. They shut the game fucking down. Anybody that bought DLC for Jump Force, like cosmetic or otherwise, you're fucked. You're fucked. I guess you can use it in single player, I guess, but who's playing the single player of Jump Force at this point? I think a lot of the people still playing Jump Force are probably playing the multiplayer. So, it's just, and then a game like Apex, Apex is like a better example, or Fortnite. When they shut Apex down, they're shutting it down. You're not going to be able to play it anymore. All your skins are going bye-bye. Like, they're gone. And this has happened with countless fucking gacha games over the years and everything like that. All the money you put into it is just completely sunk. There's nothing you get out of it. Nothing. It's literally gone. You can't even access it anymore. You can't see what you bought. You get nothing, period. So that's why I feel like NFTs do have a place in video games. They will, if implemented correctly, they can give your digital goods some amount of value that you can extract from said game too. Like, you can sell them to other players. I understand people's trepidation about it. It can be used poorly, which Ubisoft has clearly demonstrated here. And other companies are probably going to demonstrate it as well. I doubt there are going to be very many that do this well and do this in a good way. But I think it's possible. And that's why I think this kind of mob that is formed around the idea of NFTs is unfortunate, because it's going to kind of bludgeon into the general mainstream consciousness that NFTs are just bad, period. Like, the word, the acronym NFT is bad. It's just a bad idea, because, to be frank, NFTs outside of gaming are kind of a scam. They legitimately are just a fucking scam. I can't see the value in them outside of an application like video games, because it's just like a fucking image, like, you can just right click, save it yourself. Like, there's nothing even stopping people from doing that, by the way. It's literally like, you can do whatever, like, you just all you own is the little bit of code that's on the blockchain. That's it. You don't actually own the image that is you've bought as like an NFT. It's so fucking stupid, dude. I don't understand how people are like so into this. But in games, though, it can be applied in a way that like actually is something you own. Like, you own the skin, right? Like, you can have a unique, it's not unique, but you can have a skin that at least is like uniquely identified to be yours, and you can sell it. And Montrell mentioned this 2 weeks ago when we first brought this up, is the way the Steam marketplace works. That's like your baseline for how I would expect this to work in other games. And the thing with the NFTs too is like, these could like go between games, right? Like, it doesn't, like, they could make this a skin, right? Sell it as an NFT in, say, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and then bring that same skin and allow you to use it in the Division 2. Like, why not? Why the hell not? Obviously, it wouldn't apply between every type of game, but I mean, Ubisoft's games are homogenized enough. They all look similar, and they're all fucking military shooters, to the point that they could legitimately do that kind of thing. They could have that kind of ecosystem, and they could have their own exchange, using quartz that goes between their games. So that's the thing about this, is like, they're a lot of people are getting upset about the fact that they spelled out in the fine print that they don't have like control over the underlying blockchain. I think it's the what is it? The Tez, I believe the Tezos blockchain. Like they don't own that, so of course they don't have that. It's the same as any other crypto that is like formed around these things. Like they only like they develop a way to use it. Like they don't own the underlying like thing. That's kind of the point of blockchain. So I don't know. I think it can work. I mean, I will continue to be a devil's advocate for this. I will probably be yelling into a void of nothingness, and I will probably be shouted down if this opinion is ever put forth in a large crowd. But that's how I feel about it. But Ubisoft's probably not the company to shepherd us into the age where this is actually done properly. So I shouldn't have expected that or thought it was even possible with them. But all right, let's move on into the news proper. So I got a few stories to talk about this week. The first one is the slip of a Mega Man movie, live action Mega Man movie that is being made by Netflix. And we've talked about a lot of live action video game adaptations. We got the Uncharted movie coming out in a couple months, actually. Not that far off, and to be honest, this one it's just another one of those kind of head scratchers. I love Mega Man. I think Mega Man actually could have a good story. I mean, it has a decent enough lore and everything like that. But I think Mega Man, like if like Capcom wanted to make a Mega Man game that had a really good storyline, they could. They definitely could. I think it has the potential to do that. But the the idea of a Mega Man movie, is definitely strange to me. I don't think Mega Man's that good that it could carry a 2-hour movie. Like it's like, what is it even gonna be? What would they focus on? Would it be just Mega Man original? Would it be Mega Man X? Like, what version of Mega Man are we talking about? Here, because that's important. Like X is way darker than the original Mega Man. The original Mega Man's like kind of almost like a Saturday morning cartoon show in the way it is. Whereas Mega Man X is like a much more serious like thing. It's darker. Like there's some real like bad shit happening in Mega Man X. So um I mean, given that, maybe a movie could work. It just I just don't trust Netflix at this point with what happened with Cowboy Bebop. I feel like Netflix is kind of they're kind of out of control. Like they're like they're just like pointing at things that are popular in mediums that aren't movies and television, and being like they're going to games and anime, and they're like, hey, these have huge audiences, let's make a fucking movie out of them or a fucking TV show out of it. And it's like, no, you can't just do that and it's gonna work. Like I feel like they're not taking actual care of these IPs either, and I'm really afraid that they're just gonna kind of run roughshod over a lot of these and really put out some bad stuff. And this is no exception to me. So I don't have a lot of faith in them to pull off a Mega Man movie, if I'm being honest. So we will see, though. I'll I'll almost probably check it out just out of curiosity, just to see what the hell they're even trying to do with a Mega Man movie. Like maybe it'd be more like Sonic, and it's kind of a fun, just adventure romp. But I don't know. Maybe that's the way they should go. All right, moving on. Another Ubisoft story from this week. It was kind of slipped a little bit before the official announcement, but Ubisoft officially confirmed last week that they are in the midst of remaking Splintercell, which is a very, very popular stealth IP that Ubisoft has kind of had dormant for, I believe, 8 or 9 years now, and people have been clamoring for Sam Fisher, the character of these games, of the Splinter Cell games, to make his reappearance. They have been teased year after year after year with bullshit, where he's like making appearances in other games, like fucking I think, didn't they put him in Rainbow Six Siege, and then they put him in some like weird fucking mobile game that Ubisoft had, and other shit like that. So finally they actually are properly remaking actual Splinter Cell, the original one. So I'm sure this is very exciting for people. I'm happy that you're getting this remake. It's a long time coming. I just don't know. Again, going back to trusting companies, like I don't know if I don't know if I trust Ubisoft to do this justice. They just do not seem to have a tender hand when it comes to a lot of the stuff they've been doing lately. So they just seem in turmoil in general. I mean, they're losing leadership all over the place to like sexual harassment stuff, and they're losing staff as a result of this stuff. The way they've handled it, Yves Guillemot seems like he's really out of his depth a lot of the time to me with the way he's handling these kind of sexual harassment situations and just the company in general. Like I just and they just seem to have lost their creativity as well. Like that's the other aspect of this is like they're kind of grasping at straws, I feel like, and that's why I don't trust them to make this in a way that people are going to really enjoy, because they just seem like they just don't have a lot of creativity right now. As much as I was like enjoying and praising them for Riders Republic, that's like one game of many. Everything else they're making right now is just so like bland looking and stale, and just it's just the same shit over and over again. It's just some different form of the same fucking shooter, over and over and over. They just keep doing this. So I don't know if we can trust them to make a Splinter Cell remake, but we will certainly see. I hope we get a trailer sooner than later, and that will at least assuage people's concerns, if there are any, in my own even. But I've never played Splinter Cell myself, but I do enjoy stealth games. It's just funny with them. They stress me out, like because I don't want to get caught, even though it doesn't matter that much in most of them. Like it's just like I get really stressed out. I don't want to get caught. I want to be stealthy. I want to be fucking cool, stealthy, but it doesn't always work. So I don't gravitate toward these games that much. Like Hitman, the new version of the Hitman series, like 1, 2, and 3, I've wanted to play since they came out, and I just for some reason I have a mental block with them. So I'll get around to it at some point. Hopefully, my block is gone by the time Splinter Cell this remake comes out. All right, moving on. Next story. This one is actually really fun, really funny to me as well. Dr. Disrespect, the very popular Twitch streamer, sorry, not Twitch, YouTube streamer. He was banned off Twitch, and we still don't know why. The YouTube streamer, Dr. Disrespect, has announced that he has made a AAA game studio that he is the head of. Uh, and he is working. So the studio is called Midnight Society, and he is working with former 343 and Infinity Ward developers. They are he's one of the heads of the studio, along with Robert Bowling and Quinn Del Hoyo, who Bowling was from or Bowling, I'm not sure. Was He was a community manager in Affinity Ward, and Del Hoyo was at 343 Industries, where he was a designer, one of the lead designers for Halo Infinite, in fact. So he did say, I believe, that this is going to be a studio making a BR game. I don't think they said BR specifically, but they said it will be a PvP multiplayer game, which, given Doc's reputation and what he plays on his streams, I would expect that they're probably going to be making a BR. I mean, he plays BR. He's an expert in BR. He knows the design of these games pretty well. I don't agree with everything he says regarding BR games, but I will say that he definitely has more experience than most people playing them, and understands what's fun about them and what isn't fun about them. So that is my kind of thought with this. So I actually think there's some potential here. It will be interesting to see. I just think it is weird, though. It might be a little too late kind of thing, because I feel like BR. Now, I don't think BR is going away. I think BR is here to stay. It's just that I think it's become established who the big boys are. And it's going to be really hard to get in and kind of eat away at some of their market share on this. Like Apex and Fortnite kind of have a stranglehold on the whole thing. And I think it's going to be difficult for these guys to really peek in there. I know Dr. Disrespect's name will bring a certain amount of cachet and fan base to the game automatically, but I don't think that's quite enough to carry it. So they will have to legitimately make a good game here in order to garner a large audience. Which, knowing Doctor Disrespect, I don't think he's going to want to make a shitty game and release a shitty game, but that's hard to do. It's hard not to do, rather. So, it's not easy to make a great game. So we'll see. I'll look forward to any more info on that, and we will certainly inform you guys if we get anything new. Next story, this is a minor one, but I did want to kind of highlight this because this is actually pretty cool. Sony announced new controller colors for the PS5, as well as they are finally selling, after a year of the console being out, they're going to be selling console covers for your PlayStation 5 as well. And these are going to come in the same colors as the controllers. So the controller colors that we have right now is I think it's like midnight black, cosmic red. The three new ones are Nova pink, starlight blue, and galactic purple. So Nova pink is, it's just pink. Starlight blue is like kind of like a sky blue, baby blue color, which I actually really, really like. I kind of want that controller really bad. Galactic purple is just pretty much just purple. Looks really good. The midnight black is just a really dark black. It looks really good though. I like that controller a lot. And then the cosmic red is one I purchased. It's kind of a pretty, I'd say actually not a super bright red. It's kind of a deep red. It's a little misrepresented, I feel like, on the pictures on the blog, on the PlayStation blog. It's a little deeper red than what that shows there, but I like it a lot personally. The console, they have pictures of the console with all these covers on them. I actually think they look pretty good for the most part. I'm not sure I'm going to buy console covers myself. I think the black one looks the best for sure. I think I think a lot of people have made their PS5, like painted their base cover black before, and it looks really, really good on the console actually. So I think that one will probably be the most popular, but they're coming in January, so you should be able to pre-order them now, and you'll be able to get them in January. So the obviously the controller is going to be $69.99, or I think $74.99, depending on the color. They were charging a little bit more for the red one when I purchased it, so maybe that was just a weird thing of where I bought it. But I think the console covers are going to be $54.99 or something like that, which not the best price. It seems a little overpriced, but presumably you're only going to buy one of these, so it's not that crazy overall. All right. Last story of the day that I'm going to talk about is November NPD numbers, which came in last week. This is a very, very interesting month. So this is in comparison to the release month for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S last year. And predictably, the numbers are down compared to last year. So November 2021 dollar sales, total video game sales for the month of November, 6.279 billion this year versus 6.961 billion last year. That is a 10% difference. Is 10% lower than last year. Total video game content, so this is physical, digital, full game sales, microtransactions, subscriptions across all platforms. 5.138 billion this year versus 5.213 billion last year. That is only a minus 1% difference, so 1% lower than last year. Not a huge drop off. But the big one, and this is probably the most predictable, is video game hardware. 883 million this year versus 1.424 billion last year. That is a 38% decrease year over year, which makes sense. They are year over year, like the supply now versus where it was when the console launched, significantly different, right? Nobody can find the console. The consoles are hard to find. Whereas last year they had built up a huge inventory, in anticipation of launch. So this isn't that unexpected. But video game accessory sales, 258 million this year versus 324 million last year. That is a 20% decrease from last year as well. Also, not a surprise, with less people able to get the consoles, accessory sales will suffer as a result as well. Makes sense. Total year to date sales. I'm not going to go through the full numbers, but total video game sales are up 9% for the year right now. They're still holding at that despite this down month. So we will see how they stand up after December's numbers come out, and we'll go over the full numbers in December. So in terms of the top 20, top 20 games for the month of November. Number 1, Call of Duty Vanguard. Number 2, Battlefield 2042. Number 3, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond / Shining Pearl, which is interesting that they put those both in one listing, because they did not do that with Sword and Shield when those came out. Number 4, Forza Horizon 5, which this one's interesting given the fact that this game is on Game Pass day one. It's still charted very high in its launch month, which is probably really good news for Microsoft, given that it's in Game Pass. That means that these games are so popular that they're still able to penetrate the sales charts, despite the fact that people can get them included in their Game Pass subscriptions. So that's very good news for Microsoft. Number 5 is Madden NFL 22. Number 6, Mario Party Superstars. Number 7, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Still in the chart in their second month, which is great to see. It's actually the same rank as their first month in October. Number 8, FIFA 22. Number 9, Far Cry 6, which actually was number 1 last month, so they fell a number of spots. Number 10, NBA 2K22. Number 11, Just Dance 2022. Number 12, Mario Kart 8. Number 13, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. Number 14, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Number 15, Back for Blood. Number 16, Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is great to see that charted as well. That series has definitely been niche up to this point, so seeing it in the top 20, it's good to see. Number 17, Minecraft. Number 18, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 19, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And number 20, Ghost of Tsushima, continuing to hold on. I, at this point, believe that game has got to have outsold The Last of Us 2 at this point. I would love to know that information. I would really love to know the difference in sales numbers, because Ghost of Tsushima has consistently been on the NPD charts since it came out. Not every month, but there are months where it peaks back in and it jumps back into the top 20. And Last of Us 2, since its release month, I do not remember a single month where I said that game in the top 20. So that, at least that's my memory of it. Maybe I'm a little off there, but so unless that opening month for Last of Us 2 was so huge that it could possibly continue to eclipse the months and months and months of Ghost of Tsushima being in the top 20, I really feel like that Ghost of Tsushima has to have eclipsed that Last of Us 2 in sales at this point. So, which would be very, very interesting. And then top 10 best-selling games so far in 2021. This will be more interesting once it's finished next month, but I will be interested to see this, because this is what's funny, right? The top 2 games, first one, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Last year's Call of Duty is still the best-selling game of 2021. How fucked up is that, right? The second best-selling game of 2021 is Call of Duty Vanguard. So Vanguard has been underperforming. We reported on that a couple weeks ago. The game is not doing super well relative to other Call of Duties. It's one of the worst performing Call of Duties in a long time. So it's not a huge surprise that Black Ops Cold War is outperforming it, but it is still kind of insane that a game that came out 12 months ago outperformed Vanguard, because usually when Call of Duty comes out in November, it immediately jumps to the top spot in the list of best-selling games for the year, like the second it's on the market, the month it's on the market. So we'll see if that holds through December. I doubt it, but we will see. Number 3, Madden NFL 22. Number 4, MLB The Show 21. Number 5, Resident Evil Village. Number 6, Battlefield 2042, which is a new entry. Number 7, Super Mario 3D World. Number 8, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Number 9, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. And number 10, Far Cry 6. So there is still 2 games on this list that didn't come out this year: Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Miles Morales may very well fall out of the top 10 next month or for this month, but we'll see about that. The only notable release that I can see knocking it down would be like Halo, maybe Halo Infinite, or if Forza sells some more and actually peaks into this top 10 for the year, I could see that as well, but we shall see. All right, guys. That's it for the NPD numbers. I'm actually that was the final news story for the week. So I believe I'm gonna end the episode here for the week. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me drone on for about 56 minutes. It's been a fun episode to talk through the news. It's actually been a while since I've done one. I think the last traditional show we did was about 2 weeks ago now. So because we did the Game Awards last week, so it's been a little bit since we actually talked through the news. But I had fun nonetheless. So if you like this episode, please like the episode, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage, for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at Thundernut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right, guys. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will have the Game of the Year episode live for you next week during Christmas week. So please look forward to that. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next week. Bye.